Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into how the cold, hard numbers of the 2002 World Cup tell what is arguably one of the most emotional, gripping stories in all of sports history. We're going to unpack the raw data behind a truly unbelievable, legendary comeback.
Because, well, before the ultimate glory, there were 15 grueling months. Literally 15 months of intense, grueling rehabilitation after a catastrophic knee injury. Let's be real, almost every doctor and pundit out there thought this was the end of the line for the Brazilian striker known as O Fenomeno, Ronaldo. To really grasp the sheer magnitude of what he pulled off, we need to let the numbers do the talking.
All right, Section 1, the tournament in numbers.
Across 64 incredibly intense games, we saw a massive 161 total goals hit the back of the net. That breaks down to a highly entertaining average of about 2.5 goals every single game. The data proves this was a tournament just completely packed with offensive action, basically setting the absolute perfect stage for a legendary striker to make his mark.
And the global appeal of the event? Honestly, staggering. Over 2.7 million fans showed up in person throughout the tournament, which, if you remember, was co-hosted by South Korea and Japan. That incredible attendance figure was capped off by a massive crowd of nearly 70,000 spectators packing into the Yokohama International Stadium for the final match alone. The pressure, both statistical and human, was off the charts.
Moving right along to Section 2, rating the top teams.
Get this, statistically speaking, the eventual champions, Brazil, were only ranked 6th in overall team ratings heading into the late stages, sitting at 6,165 points. They were actually trailing significantly behind Italy, Spain, Mexico, their eventual finals opponent Germany, and, yep, even Turkey. So going in, they actually weren't the statistical juggernauts you might assume they were.
And when we break things down to individual player ratings, the data throws us another fascinating curveball. Brazil's Rivaldo actually ranked way higher than Ronaldo, scoring a solid 6.71 compared to Ronaldo's 6.21. This data point perfectly backs up coach Luis Felipe Scolari's tactical mindset. He fully believed that Rivaldo, playing in a much deeper playmaking role, was his most critical piece on the board, executing orders flawlessly. Ronaldo, on the flip side, was heavily focused on one thing and one thing only, finding those perfect scoring positions.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 1998 Ghost.
We absolutely have to chart this devastating journey to get the full picture. It all starts with that mysterious collapse, an unexplained seizure just hours before the 1998 World Cup final against France, a game where he drifted around the pitch like a ghost as Brazil lost 3-0. Then comes the physical breakdown, a serious knee injury in November 1999, followed by a total catastrophic disintegration of his kneecap in April 2000. All of this culminated in a super cautious 45-minute return for Brazil in March 2002. He barely even made the squad just months before the tournament kicked off. But you see, his motivation to return wasn't just to play football again. It was deeply, deeply personal. He actually utilized those haunting memories of 1998 as fuel during his absolute darkest moments of rehab. He survived those grueling hours of recovery by visualizing himself lifting the trophy. He said he would literally imagine what a wonderful feeling it must be to just hold it up in the air. It was a singular burning obsession to overwrite the past. Okay, let's get to the main event. Section 4, Brazil versus Germany.
The numbers here set up a literal cinematic duel. In one corner, we have the immovable object, German keeper Oliver Kahn. The guy was practically a brick wall, on his way to winning the Golden Ball and the Levi Yashin Award for Best Goalkeeper, having conceded just one single goal in 6 games before the final. And in the other corner, the unstoppable force, Ronaldo, dominating the tournament's scoring charts with 6 goals before even stepping onto the pitch in Yokohama.
For 67 long minutes, Kahn completely shut Ronaldo down. But then, the statistical anomaly happened. Kahn uncharacteristically spilled a shot from Rivaldo. Ronaldo, whose striker instincts were still razor-sharp despite everything his body had been through, pounced on the rebound and buried it. Kahn later admitted it was his one and only mistake in the finals and that it felt 10 times worse than any mistake he'd ever made. Then, barely 12 minutes later, the famed Brazilian attack just absolutely dismantles Germany's defense. Kleberson zips the ball right into the danger area. Rivaldo, relying on pure, unspoken telepathy with his striking partner, pulls off this brilliant dummy, just letting the ball roll right past him.
Ronaldo is waiting. He sets his body and strikes the ball low into the corner with absolute, ice-cold assurance. 2-0. Brazil wins their 5th World Cup. It's game over.
Section 5. Ronaldo's statistical redemption.
Now, you've gotta love this part. His strategy off the pitch actually helped drive the numbers on it. Ronaldo orchestrated this brilliant media distraction with a completely bizarre haircut. He shaved his head entirely except for this highly questionable triangular patch right at the front. By taking all the mockery and all the flashing cameras onto himself, he completely absorbed the pressure, relieving his teammates. They were free to focus on the only data that mattered, winning the games.
When you look at the final stats, the gap in performance was just massive. Ronaldo secured the golden shoe with a staggering 8 goals. He left his closest rivals, Germany's Miroslav Klose and his own teammate Rivaldo, in the dust at 5 goals apiece. The ghost of 1998 was well and truly buried under a sheer avalanche of goals.
If we take a step back and calculate the tournament's overall offensive impact, giving 2 points for a goal and 1 for an assist, Ronaldo completely obliterates the chart. With 8 goals yielding 2 points each, he sits all alone at the very top with 16 points. He was, without a doubt, the undisputed king of the tournament's offensive data.
So yeah, his redemption is absolutely locked in and quantified by the objective tournament data, but the actual feeling of triumph, that was entirely human. As Ronaldo put it, the goals made him feel complete. Winning the World Cup set the ultimate seal on his long, exhausting fight, his miraculous recovery, and all those dark, lonely moments in the treatment rooms. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question at the end of this explainer. Do the numbers dictate the story, or does the human spirit make those numbers truly matter? The 2002 World Cup data absolutely proves Ronaldo was the best on the pitch, but I'd argue it's his sheer refusal to give up that makes those 8 goals so legendary. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the numbers. Keep questioning the data, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.